German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock wants to limit German arms exports. For this, however, the criteria must first be clear, and the Ministry of Economics has so far formulated them. After the extensive permits for war weapons exports immediately before the change of government, Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is pushing for stricter rules for such exports. She said, "As a coalition, we have made it clear that we are reviewing the arms export policy of the past few years." She told that to the German press agency. And she said, "That is why we are working on an arms export control law that makes it clearer which criteria are used to approve arms exports." The former federal government of the Union and the Social Democrats approved arms exports worth almost 5 billion euros in the last 9 days of their term in office. This means that the total volume of export permits has risen to a record high of over 9 billion euros in the current year. Number one among the recipient countries is by far Egypt, which has been criticized for human rights violations and its involvement in the conflicts in Yemen and Libya. The government of Chancellor Angela Merkel and her then Vice-Chancellor Olaf Scholz, now Chancellor, approved the sale of 3 warships and 16 air defense systems to the North African country shortly before the handover on December 8th. Well, Scholz was taken over, so it wasn't something they were hiding. The Christian Democrat foreign politician Roderich Kiesewetter defended the approval of armaments exports worth billions shortly before the exchange of government. The acting of the executive federal government happened within the valid legal framework. Therefore, the critical voices of the Greens and left are nothing more than crocodile tears, said the member of the Bundestag, our federal parliament, also to the German press agency. The new coalition of the Social Democrats, the Greens and the Liberals now wants to curb arms exports to so-called third countries outside of the EU and NATO. In order to enable more effective control, a law is to be introduced. So far, there are only political guidelines for the approval of arms exports. The Ministry of Economic Affairs under the Greens Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck is currently responsible for the issue, so it's fun when Annalena does that. For years, however, there has been a debate as to whether the subject might not be better dealt with in the Foreign Ministry. Baerbock did not take a clear position on that question. However, she pointed out that arms exports cannot be viewed in purely economic terms. It is also a question of foreign policy, of human rights, of international relations, she says. Baerbock also wants to advocate joint arms export controls at European level. But that was, as we call it, a thick board, she admitted. Countries like France are nowhere near as strict as Germany when it comes to approving arms exports. And she might have some discussion with Robert Habeck now. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.